to order. Today is Monday, August 1st, 2022. It is now 6:40 p.m. Can everyone please stand for Pledge of Allegiance and prayer? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of the community. Please cover our responders, our first responders out there, and again, open an engagement and conversation. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
No, she's not going to be here.
Madam President, I'd like to...
One second.
Okay.
So we do have a quorum. All counselors are present with the exception of Council Russell, who could not be here this evening. Next on the agenda is comments of council members and special recognitions and resolutions. Councilor Denning, you have the floor.
Thank you. Madam President, I'd like to ask for just a moment of silence tonight in honor of Officer Noah Shahnavaz with the City of Elwood. He was on the force for 11 months, and his end of watch was last night. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Thank you. Any other counselors? Councilor Zamorov.
Thank you. I would just like to remind everyone of tomorrow evening's big event, National Night Out. Winding Ridge will be participating along with 17 other neighborhoods, so we're really excited about that, and we can't wait to have our interaction with all our safety personnel. Thank you.
Any other counselors?
Madam President.
Councilor Chevrolet.
Just wanted to say thank you to Jim Hennigan and the street crew. The intersection of Indian Lake and 79th has always been a traffic hazard with weeds and vines that were growing down. And I go out that way almost every day, and you see cars inching out, and they did a terrific job. They went back and they cut back everything on both sides, even the Indianapolis side. And I didn't know who it was, but Jim told me it was him on the John Deere down by the bridge, and the thing was on its side, and but anyway, they did a great job, as they always do. So I just wanted to make a special recognition for the work that they do to clean up our streets and to make things safe.
Thank you.
And that was at 79th and what time?
Indian Lake.
Councilor Woodfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to make sure that we all are aware that school starts tomorrow in our areas, and let's be respectful of the buses out there transporting our children to their first day of school.
Thank you. Any other counselors? Okay, seeing none. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes of regular meetings July 5th and July 20th, 2022. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilor Zamorov.
I'll second it.
Second, Councilor Wells. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor by a show of hands. Motion carries, unanimous. Next, we have signing of vouchers, approval of claims, and authorization of payment. Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion, Councilor Freeman.
Second.
Second, Councilor Denning. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor by a show of hands. Motion carries, unanimous. Next, we have reports of committee. Code.
Madam President, we have heard Deputy Chief Curtis Bixby regarding the proposed ordinance to have the vehicle inspection fees, and we all agreed, bring it to the full council.
Okay. Great, thank you. Finance.
Madam Chair, we had a vigorous discussion this evening regarding Proposal 18 and 19, which is the sewer utility rates and the bonds. At this time, there was just a lot of information that was presented, and we're going to need an additional meeting before we come back with recommendations. So that'll be extended to mid-month at 5:30 p.m. for the next finance meeting.
Okay. Great, thank you. Next, we have presentation on Fort Harrison Reuse Authority Keystone Project. Good evening.
Good evening, folks. I'm Jeff Fest. I'm president of the Fort Harrison Reuse Authority, and tonight we get an opportunity to have a presentation on a economic development project here at Fort Harrison by the Keystone Group. Tonight I'd like to introduce, I said I'm President of Reuse Authority, have my executive director, Ms. Heather Milliken, is with us, Ms. Karen Powers, member, Mr. Jason Fenwick, member, and I also, my two other board members, Russ Brown and Lacey Johnson, could not be here, but they wanted to make sure the council gets a copy of their letters of support. So I'm going to start down here with you, Mr. Wells. This is just the latest economic activity, not only in Fort Harrison that I've been a part of, the Reuse Authority, since 1995, but it will impact well beyond the borders of Fort Harrison. And to me, this is just, it's not the economic activity that's going on, it's just another piece that's going on in the city right now. And I'm going to introduce Dan Zerner, who will introduce our legal team, and Keystone Group, who is working real hard to make sure that it's another one of their great projects they've done in and around central Indiana. Mr. Zerner.
Good evening, councilors. Thank you for the opportunity to be here again. You know, I think one of the greatest things about your job must be to be able to look backwards and say, I was part of something fantastic. Something that really was transitional and made a difference in the community in ways that nobody can anticipate. For the last 2 years, we have been developing this project, year and a half, with the great group of Keystone Group. Ursal Ozdemir, who you may or may not know and couldn't be with us this evening, is the owner of Keystone, a native of Turkey, a Purdue graduate, but he's also the one that's doing the $1 billion project for Diamond Chain and the new soccer program downtown. He largely made downtown Carmel what it is through their 3 developments that are going to virtually be emulated here on the fort. That's what you're going to see tonight. The great news for this council is there's virtually no risk to the city. The developer's taking nearly all of the risk, and the FHRA may be a little bit of risk, but the approval we need from this body is more approval of support and statutorily required, but there is no risk on the part of this council financially or otherwise, as you'll hear tonight. And yet the monumental impact this project is going to have in terms of the potential for really high-end restaurants and commercial space that could potentially bring a boutique grocery store to the fort, other types of things we're working on. The impact that you'll see tonight is nothing short of incredible, and we're really appreciative of having the Keystone Group make this investment in the city of Lawrence. So with that, tonight we have Kelly Mulder, if you'll hold up your hand for a minute, and Jennifer Pavlik, and Vulcan. Don't know your last name, Vulcan, but Vulcan's from Turkey. Glad to have him here. And we're just delighted to have the Keystone Group make this presentation. So the way this is going to work, they're going to present the project. Jason Fenwick's going to, and Bruce Donaldson will then come up and discuss the financing. And then after that, we'll take any questions you have relative to any of it, if that's okay, President.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
That'd be all right. So with that, Kelly, would you like to introduce your project? Sure. Assistance, or you and Joe have this ready to go?
We're going to give it a shot and see if it works or not. Thanks, Dan. Thanks to the Reuse Authority.
I'm sorry, I was remiss not introducing Jill Blunt. She's with the Keystone.
Yes, thank you. And thanks to the mayor and thank you to the council for having us. We're excited to present this project here tonight. and again, talk about some of the details that we've been discussing here for some time. We're also really excited about Lawrence, the growth that we've seen around here, everything that is exploding along 56th Street. We're just, again, excited for the opportunity to be involved with that and continuing the growth that we see here in this great city. Sure, I did turn the screen on. I haven't really got to the details of the building, but I am starting to preview behind you what is the proposed developments. Just to pile on what Dan was saying just a little bit, Keystone, what we're kind of focused on basically is unique projects, one-of-a-kind buildings. We're not the developer that does the same thing over and over. People that do a lot of multifamily, nothing wrong with it, but they'll get a product and they do the same thing multiple times. Pretty much everything we do are one-offs, which means we design it specifically for the area or wherever we're going to go. We pay a little bit extra attention to make sure that everything is, again, working within what I said earlier, the urban fabric or the design of the area. And then there are also a little bit more complicated projects normally. So the project we're going to talk about tonight has a mix of retail, restaurants, it's parking, and all that's intermingled with multifamily. So those are kind of our go-to projects. We like this opportunity that was here, again, because it's unique, it's transformational, and those are the areas that we want to be involved with and the type of projects that we want to pursue. The other thing that helps us, we try to do a little bit higher end buildings. We try to spend a little bit more money. The reason that we can do that is that we are small enough that we are long-term holders of the asset. So again, we're not developing this and trying to flip out to any other big REIT or anyone else to take it over. We do look to long-term hold these things. So that helps when we're making decisions, again, of how it looks or some of the materials on the outside. It's a little bit easier than when we say, well, let's do a little bit more brick or the stone or those kind of things, because again, it's less maintenance, longer term. So it's making that commitment up front, again, for the long term. So with that, I'll just discuss a little bit about the building. What we have planned here, and I'll share some elevations and then in plans, it's a 5-story building. It is a mix of different color bricks, stone, retail that we concentrated along the base on 56th Street. That does turn the corners a bit, and you'll see that into a plan. And then the upper 4 stories would be the apartments. There's, in this rendering and in our plan, we show about 248 residents total. That would be a max. We have a mix of, it's about 60% studio/1 bedrooms and 40% that would be 2 bedrooms. And we will have a couple 3 bedrooms in here as well. We saw there wasn't a lot of that offered in this market, so we think there's an opportunity to at least have a couple of units that have more bedrooms for families that are in the area. On the first level right now, we have planned, again, along 56th Street. I'm going to flip just to a plan. I'm going to come back. There's 25,000 square feet that could be turned into restaurants, retails, grocery, whatever. Again, we can see what the market wants to do. We are envisioning both end caps that we will do a little bit more architecturally. We really want the east side and the west side to sort of have that pop for the city. So when you're coming down 56th Street, we're starting to define that you've come to a place, and that's where we'll have the signage on it. And it really can start to attract the little bit nicer restaurants and boutiques. So this is the southeast corner. Another thing we played with, and these are conceptual, we have a long ways to go, but again, it's the level and gives you the flavor of what we're trying to achieve. We see each corner being different. We didn't want to have the same thing on each. This side we have it a little bit more squared off. The west side is a little bit more rounded, which you can kind of see in this long elevation here. And again, just to kind of give each side its own presence of what street you're on and where you're going to turn. We want to have some prominent signage on the top so that you know that you have arrived to the location. And again, give a spot for a great corner restaurant that we see being based underneath here. Included in the 25,000 square feet, we would have about 4,000 square feet for a leasing office. We'll have amenities such as an outdoor pool, cabanas, places to sit. Again, it's pretty similar to most other developments, just trying to elevate it a touch more that it's going to go with all the units. Inside, we'll finish it. It'll have a wood-type floors for all of the units. It'll be a laminate plank, but again, they've really come a long way, so it's hard to tell anything from wood versus these laminates that these at this point, and they just wear a little bit better. But we elevate like just all the little details in there, even from having a couple color paint schemes in apartments that a lot of people don't do. The countertops will do a quartz. We started to do some waterfall countertops, which again is elevated. We're designing them a little bit more like modern day condos, those kind of amenities that people want to see. Same thing with appliances. They'll be stainless steel, but just a little bit higher end. We're two-toning the cabinets at this point, again, because it's the new cool thing to do. So anything that we can do, again, to differentiate our product that you walk into it and just sort of feel that little something extra, that's the space that we're most successful in. That's where we like to hover and to be. So that's kind of a quick overview of, again, sort of the program, the amenities. This long elevation, again, we're working with breaking it up. We don't want it to look like a one long elevation, so we want to kind of think of that old school where you can separate it, do some pushing and pulling of the elevations. As you can see here, we're indicating a couple of different color bricks, a lot of stone at the base, and then we will use some hardy plank or hardy board. Not plank siding, but it'd be more of the solid board that could happen in sort of the top elevations along the 5th floors, which is sort of a traditional place to change it. We like to have balconies, so we want everyone to have fresh air, so they can come out onto those. So almost every unit should have a balcony that comes out. We'll look at using some architectural metal panel or some bronze colored metals that are, again, on the balconies inside and outside. There is ample parking that you see in the back. One thing I'm going to point out here, on each wing, this is where the units lay out. It pretty much goes all the way back to Otis Avenue, other than where the pool is shown. That would be the amount of building that would be 5 stories in total. If I go back to the plan, you'll notice that there's parking underneath the east and west side of those wings. So that would actually be covered parking. Again, that could be leased out and reserved for people that have a unit. And that could be, we'll probably control that again with parking gates, something like that. And then the rest of it can be mixed use so that the retail will function on the first level. And provided here, you're seeing there's 333 total parking spaces as part of the development. And again, it'll be 248 residents max. It could be a few units less than that once we finally get the final layouts done. And with that, I'll conclude my formal presentation. We're here, we're happy to take more questions, and I have my rest of my team here too that will help facilitate anything else that you guys would like to hear from us. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilor Giles.
I had a question about the space, the retail space and restaurant space. Will there be any larger spaces there that could accommodate, a national chain? Or are we looking for, what type of restaurants and retail are we looking to attract, I guess is the question.
Traditionally, we do maybe not even all the nationals. We would certainly do a national. It would be at that level. Or perhaps even a higher end, call it a local chef. So more of the local restaurateurs that are here looking for new spaces. That's what we did up in Carmel. So we have a lot of, that's one of their only restaurants that's branded that way. They may run several restaurants, but it would be something, again, unique, higher end, could actually be a destination for Lawrence so that people from not just here want to come and enjoy it, but it's going to attract others. So it'll definitely be national chain or elevated from that. And a lot of those, they can vary a lot in size, but you need about 5,000 square foot for a decent restaurant. Some may go a little bit larger than that, but if you get to 10, it's almost too big. So we really could have, these two end caps are going to be, we think, prime in demand because they both have great visibility. They're on the corners. So you potentially could have 2 great restaurants that come in. And even if those are only 5,000 each, that would leave another 15,000 square foot in the middle. To bring other amenities, we probably don't want to do all restaurants. It'll be too heavy for that. So then we could mix that with other retailers that, again, balance the center. So maybe some more lifestyle things that support the people that are living there. So, yeah, there's could be a lot of different things as well.
Well, one thing I will say that I won't critique your model as toughly as I would if you told me you were going to sell the place. So for me, you guys saying you're going to build it and hold it lets me know that you're going to do your market research. You're going to, you're going to make some money on renting a place. And so we're happy to, I know myself, and I probably speak for some of the other fellow councilmen, that was big for me. I just wanted to share that with your group because what we don't want is an empty, sketchy, kind of building. We want to make sure that it's vibrant. And so I thank you for that proposal. It's really refreshing.
Yeah, no, thank you. And they take maintenance to keep them going, so it's not even day one. But yeah, look up, and thank you for mentioning again Sophia Square, which is in downtown Carmel. If you guys haven't been there, it's right off the main street. And Sophia.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's a good example. We've been there for a long time.
Maybe he'll buy me dinner at Monterey. I don't know if I can.
Maybe with Dan's pockets, he can.
I have a question, and I don't know, Mr. Zerner, if this question is for you or for Mr. Fenwick, but you said that nearly all the risk is with Keystone, and there's minimal risk to the Fort Harrison Reuse Authority. Can you explain that? What the minimal risk is?
Minimal risk is that we don't close on this deal. And so in the project agreement, there was a very small reimbursement request. That's the FHRA risk. What's being asked of the council is identical to what the council approved on Cityscape a couple of years ago. So it's a developer-backed bond. The city, the council, nor FHRA have any liability.
So you said, though, if hypothetically we were to back out, what is that financial risk? What's the dollar amount, the percentage?
Like 20,000.
Okay.
But there is one other technical risk involved. They are buying the real estate, but the FHRA is paying that back to the money. The real estate itself actually end up net zero to Keystone. That's the one contribution.
Okay, yeah.
How much is the land valued at?
$1.2.
Okay.
The other thing I'd like to point out is, obviously, we as a board just finalized this agreement within the last 2 weeks, which is why you're just now getting this. We wouldn't have had anything to present prior to that. And I know you may feel like you're under the gun, but there was some urgency given the environment we're in with interest rates. If they're doing a developer-backed bond, they may want to be able to lock that rate in sooner rather than later, just given the rate environment we have. So just wanted to mention.
So the rates won't change until September 1st? I'm just asking.
They'll change.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
With that, we'll have to wait.
Counselor?
My first question is, given the financial market, does Keystone have any alternative plans? It doesn't get good terms?
What?
If you don't get good terms,
On the
when
money.
you try to take it to market, do you have a plan B?
We do a lot of development.
Yes, I know.
We're pro-development. That's our business. So we've always been able to get something done, so we're still optimistic, of course, that given the rate where it is now and still where things are going, we spent a lot of time on this in the last month, especially getting the PSA done. We feel confident that we can get it done, and that's why we're here. We have these plans. We're teed up with our architects to go start spending money now. So
you would spend your own capital now?
yeah.
Even if you could, I'm trying to.
Capital being.
How time sensitive is this for you, if you want to know where I'm going? That's where I'm going.
Yes, our plan was to start the architects and start going through this process. So again, that we could.
And I think on the question, Adam Collins
Yeah.
with Wallach Summers asked a little bit more specifically on the financing. The option is, in terms of time sensitivity, they have to make that decision as quickly as possible. So depending on when
as we go forward, when the approval comes, they'll ultimately make the decisions on where the rates are, but given they're going one direction, there's a series of different options they can look at, but the goal is to try to lock it in as quickly as possible, which is why everybody's moving right now.
But it's not going to kill the project if we don't have an order by September 1 from the council.
So
Because it's not even on their agenda at this point.
I think it's as quickly as possible, right? I mean, all these projects are doing this. Everybody has baked in a series of lead time, but it's without a doubt as quickly as possible to make sure that they can capitalize on a lowest rate as they can possibly take.
Well, what is the rate that would kill the deal?
So I don't think that's known. Kelly, correct me if I'm at this time.
I don't think there's a specific number etched.
A lot goes hand in hand, right? Cost of the project, cost of the bonds, cost of the construction loan, all those go in. So it's a little bit of a cake you have to bake. So it depends on the totality of the ingredients.
Because lumber costs have somewhat decreased
Tremendously.
recently. Okay.
And the other question was, that looked like Bar Louie to me. Normal? Is that one of your projects?
That is one of our projects too.
Okay.
It's a totally different architect, so there was not an intent to copy that, but
That's at 136th and Old Meridian.
yes, that is another one of our projects as well.
So, Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Councilor Denny?
Not related to finance. Can you go back one slide, if you don't mind, to the, or forward, whichever way you had it, to the outlay? The one right before this one. So you have, what I can barely read it, 38 street parking? Is that what, and you're the middle there, about as far as parking spots?
Yes.
330. So is that, will that interfere with other businesses that are existing there? Is there a parking study or, you know, that's about a 10% that's going to be into the street. Are you anticipating those to be residents, mostly people visiting the businesses you'll have there?
So out of the, you're talking about the 333 total,
Well,
or the 33 or the 38 street parking?
Yeah, 38 in the street parking. So where will they park, and does that interfere with existing businesses and existing lots that are there?
So pretty much all of that's constructed out there right now. So that work has been done. We will do a traffic study when we get the civil on board, and we will need to align. We've got sort of placeholders in and out. We've got 3 of them, 1 on each street. So we'll study that. Lawrence Village Parkway is a little tight, so we've got to make sure that that works. That's probably, you can't go left out of the development because of the median. So there's some things like that. We want to align on the east side. We have a drive. I think there's one that's going to be over there for the library too. So that's another thing that we need to work on to make sure that's aligned and works properly. But we will dive into the details to make sure all of that functions correctly.
I'd like to clarify that, Councilor Denny. We did not allow them in the project agreement to create any.
Well, no, I understand it's already there, but it's already there and being utilized. So will there be a conflict? Do we need more street parking or? Okay, thank you.
Any other counselors?
Madam President?
Councilor Wells?
Thank you.
Then Councilor Whitfield.
I'll let ladies go first.
Councilor Whitfield, you have the floor.
Oh,
And
great.
Councilor Freeman.
Thank you. I know it's probably early in the time frame, but I would like to ask a question in regards to supplier diversity and your commitment and recommendation to that as you're building on the fort.
Specifically to the XBE components of this, we have with us our expert who leads us on that. So I'm going to let Camille answer that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Camille Blunt. I am with Taft. I work with Keystone specifically for this project on ensuring that they meet the utilization goals of the city. So I can go through the plan if you want all of the detail of what's included. So just high level, there are things that they plan to do in order to ensure that minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses are included in this project. So there are various things and ways to bring out people to tell them about your project. Those could include an XBE reception. The invitations would be sent to the City of Indianapolis, Connection, Mid-State Supplier Diversity Council, the Women's Business Enterprises National Council, National Association of Women in Construction. This will serve as an opportunity for contractors and suppliers to meet the Keystone team and to discuss the plans for the project while outlining the tentative bid schedule. Keystone will identify multiple companies with which to have follow-up meetings with to discuss the project in more detail. There will also be an inclusive pre-bid notification. Those pre-bid notifications, again, will be sent out to the City of Indianapolis XBE team prior to those pre-bid meetings. By making sure that people know about the things in advance, you hopefully can attract more bidders to the process. And that is the ultimate goal, is to have a lot of people bid so that you could identify the best price, but still be able to diversify the people working on your project. Notifications would also be distributed to the state of Indiana, the Indy Chamber, Connection, the Recorder, Indianapolis Recorder, the Indianapolis Black Chamber, Indiana Latino Institute, La Plaza, the National Minority Supplier Development Council, and then also Keystone social media outlets. Notifications will additionally be sent to the company's minority supplier database, which has been created from various certification lists from the state of Indiana, as well as the city of Indianapolis and other certifying entities. Those pre-bid meetings would be scheduled at least 2 weeks prior to a bid being due. That is huge because a lot of times you will see bids come out and not allow enough time for someone to effectively respond to a notification. So them stating in advance that we will allow people 2 weeks to prepare a bid also allows for more participation. They will conduct radio outreach on the stations 1310 The Light, Radio 1, Radio Latina, as well as WTLC. And Keystone will direct any non-certified minority businesses to the city of Indianapolis and encourage certified businesses to contact Keystone for more information on bid details. Keystone will also have regular meetings with the XBE staff to ensure that the plans and progress of the goals are being met. So if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer those for you.
Counselors?
I got a question. Thank you for that. That's really good. I'm glad to first, I want to commend you guys again for coming prepared and already having something together for us. That's really big, and thank you. I'm the guy that's going to push it further, okay? And so I like the fact that you hold your properties. And I'm learning here in the state of Indiana, sometimes there's challenges to find MBEs and women-owned businesses to do some of the front-end stuff. But do you currently use any MBE, women-owned business, veteran businesses in the maintenance and the ongoing of your building? That's the question I have.
Yes, please.
So obviously, we not only develop and build, but then we have property management. So we, as you said, hold the long-term investments for our company. So at this point, I know we do certain maintenance with different businesses, such as grass maintenance, depending on the size of the company. We self-perform.
So you handle all you don't contract out HVAC, none of the maintenance, everything is ongoing in-house?
It kind of depends on the situation or the size, you know what I mean? So it's like we have our own maintenance people, so if they're just things you can handle on site
So when you do contract out,
if we have to, depending if a situation comes up where if there's something big that we cannot handle in-house, then we would contract
do
out.
you have any minority businesses that you contract out to have an ongoing working relationship is the question?
Yeah, I don't have a list of those.
Could you please provide those to us, Camille, if possible?
Yep, definitely.
That's the question. Thank you.
Last question. And I will point out as well that Keystone is actually a certified minority-owned business within itself.
I didn't know that. There's no minorities being represented by them today. Huh? Who?
Ursal is the owner of
I'd love to meet him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Freeman?
I know this building is like 5 stories high, and it's going to kind of tower over our apartments and the library. Do you have any problem, or will we have any problem with that, or?
As far as identifying minority businesses?
No, I think the question is for
It's for someone
Keystone.
else.
Yeah,
Okay.
uh-huh.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you so much.
Camille, you might want to just stay right up front because you might have a follow-up question, but.
I'll just come up next to you, so. No, we still think that the 5 stories is appropriate. We certainly didn't want to push it to 6. We thought that got to be too much. But being, again, the precedent on the main street, trying to be the signature landing building for the area, it's contextual in that sense, we felt. So in the way we brought it up to the street, that was on purpose. So we're hiding the parking. We did not want to have a parking lot that you went by. So again, there were some steps that we took in the planning to, we thought, be thoughtful of where that density is, where the height is, and then again, it sort of steps back on the corner. And where we put the pool too, we kind of, that's where we step back a little bit to, when you come up the street, you're going to be able to still see that corner of Otis, which is where they spent the most money on that too, which is great.
Madam President?
Yes, Councilor Levy.
Might be too soon. You may know this answer. The total cost of the project, do you have an estimate of the capital that you guys plan to invest so we can understand? Because you're coming to us for, I'm guessing, a moral ob on the bonds, or you're going to?
We're backing the bonds. They're developer-backed bonds, so we're not asking you guys.
Developer-backed, okay. So I'm just curious, do you have an idea of the
Yeah, it's
approximate
about
cost?
a $66 million
66,
development.
okay, thank you.
I think that'd be the perfect.
Yeah. Please step forward, Mr. Donaldson. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam President, council members. Bruce Donaldson with Barnes & Thornburg. We've been working with the Reuse Authority and the city on this project. As has been mentioned previously, the specific proposal that we'll be bringing to you, we have prepared an ordinance that we'd like to get introduced to you that would authorize what we call a developer TIF bond, which means that the bond would be issued by the city, but would be payable solely from new property taxes that are generated from this project. So the Reuse Authority will create what we call a tax increment finance or TIF allocation area that is solely the site of this project, and they would pledge 90% of that to the repayment of the bond, and that would be the only source of repayment on the bond. There would be no commitment of city funds whatsoever. There would be no commitment of any other Reuse Authority funds whatsoever. And so it's a very limited recourse bond. As Jason mentioned, it is virtually identical to the cityscape structure that we used a couple of years ago that you approved and authorized. That's the model that we're looking at here. And that's really in the negotiations between the Reuse Authority and the developer. That's what kind of got the project over the hump to make the project feasible for the developer. And so we, as I said, we've actually prepared an ordinance that we would like to get in front of you as soon as we can. If we could, we'd really love it if we could get it introduced at your mid-month meeting and get it on your finance committee maybe sometime before the first meeting in September, so that we could come back in the first meeting in September for you to consider action on it. Otherwise, I think we lose a whole month if we, go to the October meeting. So we'd certainly appreciate that accommodation if that's possible, but that's the structure that we're looking at. I'd be happy to take any questions on that as well.
Councilor Giles?
I would like for you to give an opportunity to kind of educate us or bring back to those others who may know the difference between building a development like this with the TIF in place, without the TIF, and what that is, what the ramifications of that is to the city of Lawrence.
Yeah, I think the short answer, and I would really let the developer answer this as well, but the short answer is there won't be a project without the TIF. That's the economically, they can't make the numbers work if we don't provide, a portion of their property taxes to help support the development.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to. There's always a criticism on TIFs. The criticism on the other side of the TIFs is how many folks are going to live in this apartment? How many people are going to be in this unit?
248 units, so.
And then the retail, the capacity, right? So I'm going to go to my great servant of Indiana and mentor and friend, Representative Bill Crawford, taught me about TIFs. And so one of the issues that I want to make sure that this council realizes is that how long is this TIF going to be set up at this property?
25 years.
25 years, there'll be property taxes paid back to the development and not to the city of Lawrence and to the services that we offer to the people who live in that building. So for our fire, police, public safety, all that stuff will not be paid into by the folks in that development that'll be one of the major developments on the fort for the next 25 years. The money that's being paid into this bond is a bond that's being done into, you say that this is where I get confused. I want to make sure I'm clear. The bond is being repaid, the debt service is being paid by the funds out of the TIF that's being directed there.
90%.
Right. That bond is helping create what? The development.
Correct.
So then the people of Lawrence is paying for the development indirectly.
Well, the taxpayer is paying for it.
The
through their
people of
property
Lawrence.
taxes. And if you don't do the TIF, you're not going to get any property taxes. So that's kind of the.
Well, we could get development in there. We didn't have to do a TIF for the David Weekley homes to go in. And they pay property tax
So the property taxes we're talking about are Keystone's property taxes.
at that development.
Yeah.
But those people will need fire services. If somebody has a heart attack at the restaurant, we'll have to respond.
And the FHRA makes a contribution to the city every year for those services.
And will that be enough? Will that increase now because we have more folks and capacity on the fort? Will that be
It's
prorated?
The formula is based on assessed value, so yeah, it would go up.
Okay, thank you. That's where I'm getting at. I think that's very educational for us. Thank you very much.
I just want to follow up, Madam President, if you don't mind, real briefly.
Yes.
Super brief. So the units that you're proposing, are they mostly one bedroom, two bedroom, three? What's the mix? And are you anticipating younger, millennial families? What are your thoughts?
It's about 60% would be the one bedrooms / studios, a mix of both. So the studios would be the smaller percent, it'd be mostly one bedrooms out of that 60%. The other 40 would primarily be two bedrooms. We would have like 8 3-bedroom units too. We're looking at maybe the corners being a little bit bigger. So that way it provides enough diversity for this location that it could be a family that needs some place a little bit bigger, or someone that's younger that just needs to save costs, so they got to go into a studio. So we like that kind of mix typically in a building like this.
So population about 400 to 500, roughly, once it's all full?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Zerner, for transparency, every year, I just read my letter I just got, we don't get money back because all the money's used. I just got the letter, I just read it, I just got it in June. So I just want to make sure that we're clear for the record that money's not going to come back, because every year we get a letter saying we get that letter every year, right? I just got it in June. So I want to make sure that we're being transparent, that we are going to take that financial risk, because for the whole time I've been on the council, every year I get that letter. And this is year, I think, 7.
So that's the excess TIF declaration. So FHRA and City of Lawrence TIF, that similar letter goes out every year. What I was referring to with Councilor Giles is there's a separate agreement between the city and FHRA on a city services payment that was enacted or executed back in 2016, I think. So FHRA pays the city about $1.1 million a year for those fire, police protection in this area.
So But FHRA is not going to be in existence forever, right? I mean, once we sell
Another 25 years.
the lot, so you're saying that there is no financial risk for the FHRA to cover those expenses for 25 years? Okay.
You know, I'm sorry, too. I thought, Jason, I'm sorry, but you're here. So I remember us talking about a strategy of filling these parcels up so that we could dissolve FHRA so that the city could then take over and use that as a tax base. So when we build this, I'm so sorry, sir, but we won't get any financial gain for this for 25 years. And you explained that to me about what's going on in Anderson. You taught me lessons.
Two different things going on there, because Anderson's TIF does have a sunset. Reuse authority TIFs operate under a different statute, and they have longer sunset periods. So in this case, we did talk about that, and right now, the reuse authority can't go away until the last debt obligation is paid. And I think the last current one we have was Cityscape, which was 20 years when that was issued 2 years ago.
Okay, so we're still okay. The next question I got, again, sorry, going back into the TIF, going back to my Bill Crawford days, how does this affect the school district of Lawrence? Because I remember he was very critical of all those downtown TIFs not feeding into IPS, but children will be going into the school district and won't be getting tax dollars. I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to peel it all the way open.
So since creation of the FHRA, City of Lawrence, the schools, the overlapping taxing districts, no one has gotten a tax dollar from the reuse authority area. So this project isn't going to take anything away from.
It's not going to add, it's not.
Potentially add new students with the housing.
Oh, from the, so we get money from the state. So what I'm really trying to figure out is, sometimes we get these developments and they go, it's great for Lawrence. This is going to be great for the city of Lawrence. But I'm trying to figure out, how is it adding to our tax base today? How is this, I know it's going to make our area more developed, but how does it help a citizen and help our budget and help our city grow, because we're landlocked?
Attract people to Lawrence.
I'm talking about money, not attraction. We're talking about money right now.
Well, let me back up. So if Keystone had approached us and said, you know what, we want to build this exact project, and didn't ask for the developer-backed bond and said we're going to own it long-term, we're still having this conversation, because their tax dollars will go to the reuse authority, not the city, not the schools, not the overlapping. Yeah. So reuse authority would still collect 100%.
And Cityscape already put us out another 20 years. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I get a full understanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to try
Madam
to wrap
President.
this up out of respect to the Madam President and the group. And if you have more questions, we'll obviously take them. We appreciate your interest. But this hasn't happened without tremendous amounts of work from all the board members are here, and the board members of FHRA that wrote letters. I want to acknowledge how much work Heather Milliken's put into this. But in our view, there's so much value here in terms of the people that'll bring here for tourism dollars, to eat at our restaurants, to go to your new Civic Plaza park that you're creating, to use various things to come to the community because of the destinations we're creating. I think it's the perfect build out that will culminate in this city really becoming something along with everything else that you're supporting, the redo of Pendleton Pike, the Trades District, the many projects that you're doing right now. I think this is the capstone to that project and that opportunity, and we would just very much appreciate your consideration. We sure thank you for taking the time and your questions tonight.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get the other counselors, because we may or may not need everybody to come back. Sure. So I would like to spend just a few more minutes to make sure that they get their question answered, and then we can move on to the next agenda item. Yes, Councilor.
Well, as most people know, I've lived here a long time, and we have currently 2 facilities that are similar to this, except for the apartments. They're basically just retail and office space. I do not know of any time that either one of these two places have had a full or even close to a full occupancy. I'm sure you guys have done studies, but I would also think that you have looked at the occupancy rate of these other 2 facilities, and why I guess where I'm going with this is, what makes your place different? Why would you think that you may have a better occupancy rate than the buildings that have been there for years that have not been able to do so?
Great question, Councilor Wells. So when, I assume you're talking about the commercial space because
Yes.
all the other apartments are full. So the commercial space is just so much different. It's chopped up, smaller, second floor in a lot of cases, commercial space, office type space. The spaces we're creating here are primarily for high-end restaurants, perhaps a boutique grocery store. They're bigger, they have more room, they should be far more attractive, and they shouldn't compete with that other space that's sitting there empty right now.
So you're confident that your facility will have a full occupancy and maybe not have, hopefully not have an ill effect?
I think if anything, it'll help those. I think it'll attract enough business and vibrancy down to these facilities that are bigger and bring people in. That'll give reason for people to have maybe a small clothing store or other type supporting things in those existing shops. The other thing I want to point out is what I think the positive impact this will have on the library. I think to put another 250 families right next to the library will make that library far more vibrant and useful than it will be even today. So, and I think it'll have that same effect on our park that you're investing in right now across the street.
I had one other real quick question. The one, and actually Councilor Denny touched on this as well, but I guess I'm still a little fuzzy on the parking. You've got like 300 and some parking spaces that's outdoor parking, and then the remainder are to be for the tenants. I'm assuming those are
300 and some, let me clarify that for you. That 300 and some are within the footprint of the building. And I don't know the number exactly, but probably 60 or 80 of them covered, Kelly, in round numbers?
Yes, 71 covered.
71 covered around the perimeter that would be dedicated to the residents. And then for a lack of saying it any better, and this is one where the mayor will tell me I should have kept my mouth shut, the balance of that space will be fought over between residents and people wanting to park in there for other reasons.
Yeah.
Well, that, I guess my concern is if you have an apartment, and so you have two people that live in the apartment that have automobiles, that's quite close to 500 automobiles, and then you've got all the people that work in the retail spaces, they're going to have a place to park, and then you got to have your place to park for the people that are coming to the stores, would you not?
So I don't think I'm out of school, and Heather and Jason, the board, can kick me later. But one of the things that's going on that we hope to have in conjunction with, that again, the FHRA is going to finance, we're not talking about council participation at the moment, is a new 3-story parking garage to go right next to the hotel. All of that will complement this all at one time, and we expect to get it all done at once. And you'll be hearing more about that, and that will also have some form of retail space as we're looking at the design. But if you think of Carmel and what the parking garages have done to promote restaurants and the use of the downtown and all those sort of things, we're looking at this whole package right now, and I think the next 5 years in Lawrence are going to be so exciting. And this is all part of it, and this is the capstone of that. But you're correct in that there's not a total number of parkings. When people start using the park and they use all these other amenities, we're going to have more parking. We recognize that. We did look at, so you know, we did look at, and this is where you would have had to come involved, and we elected not to put you in this position. We looked at putting underground parking garage below this building. It was going to add about $30 million, $30 million that we would have had to have you fund, and we walked away from that.
That's a good idea.
But we had it in the drawings, we've looked at it, we budgeted it, and we decided we didn't want to put that risk on the city, and we walked away from that, looking for the FHR to help with the parking garage structure down the road.
Councilor Samora, you had a question?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just have
Don't even
one
have
other
a
brief
comment?
question.
Well, the only comment I had was about the TIF conversation. And my experience with creating PowerPoints describing and explaining TIFs from 2011, so there's been a little time. But our biggest selling point on using a TIF was because the area might be blighted.
Mm-hmm. We're not blighted.
Oh.
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the original redevelopment statute was written back in the 1950s and was written for blighted areas for like downtown. It was subsequently amended to allow for the creation of what we call economic development areas, which are areas that are not necessarily blighted, but they need some kind of public help to spur development. And this falls into that latter category.
I might also point out the one thing that people forget
As long
is
as you meet the but-for test, which is what, you really need to incentivize the deal, excuse me.
I always say that 10% of something great is better than 100% of nothing.
Yeah, but you
A lot of people don't, just give me a second here. A lot of people don't think in those terms. And in this particular case, you're going to get 10% a year of a $60 million investment that you wouldn't have if nothing developed. And I think that's significant besides all the other benefits.
Could you speak a little bit, because I think that leads into my question, I'm sorry. 10% of what?
Oh, go ahead.
So if the
I'm so sorry.
if the TIF is 100%, we're pledging 90 to them, you get 10% of that back every year that you wouldn't have if this development didn't occur.
The question becomes, is it a quotient of, is that relative to the expense that's being used? Here's the big question, I'm so sorry, but here's the thing I want to know about, and she hit on it with the blightness. I thought the importance of a TIF was to redevelop, and the way that the city would make money is that the property value in the other arranging areas would go up. So even though that TIF might be paying directly away, but because I've increased the property value around, that is how it's beneficial. I'm looking for the benefit for Lawrence long-termly. And so I want to know, has there been any studies that show that these type of developments are increasing, let's say, the housing on Watson Farms or something? Like how far is our investment in the fort? What is that doing for the city of Lawrence? We have constituents that say, hey, you're investing all your money on the fort. You're not putting nothing on Franklin Road, nothing there. And I need to be able to tell them, this is helping you this away. And as a citizen of Lawrence today. And so I'm trying, if you guys can help us bridge that gap, I think that would help, at least me.
I think there's been an awful lot of high-end jobs created on the fort where people are buying houses in and around Lawrence. They're buying other services. They make it possible for you to do the Starrett Center and other cultural activities.
High-end jobs developed on the fort?
We are, what was the name of the award we won last year in the tech?
How about tech jobs?
The Mirror Award. We have more high-tech jobs in the fort than anywhere in Marion County.
More than 16 tech, huh?
So,
Councilor Shevlot.
Thank you. So kind of fast forward this, let's say everything goes according to the plan. What is the date that you guys anticipate this structure being done, rented, and commerce starting to happen?
right now we're all targeting late '24 for this.
2024, late, okay.
For this project and the parking garage and all that to kind of come together.
Okay, thank you.
Is that correct, Kelly?
Yes.
Sure, I didn't know where.
Councilor Russell has joined us via Zoom. Councilor Russell, do you have any questions?
Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm getting my video on. No, not at this time. Thank you so much for, and sorry I've been so late, but thank you so much for recognizing me. But no, I do not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think that's all our questions right now. I really do appreciate everyone coming out and sharing. Up until a few days ago, I had no idea what a Keystone project was. So I appreciate that, giving us sort of the high-level plan and the information. I think is very helpful, and it should facilitate us doing what we need to do to make a decision. So I appreciate your time and the information.
I would have to say in my time frame here, this is the most engaging I've ever seen this council, and I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the Baker Tilly presentation on financial plan and cash flow analysis. And we'll just give everyone a second to clear.
My bigger issue.
Nobody wants to stay for the fun stuff.
Yeah. Amen.
Thanks, Tyler.
They spend a $500,000 county.
do have this on a jump drive. I don't know if it's,
Tyler,
I know,
Tyler should
I'm not
be
an
able
IT person.
Tyler, can you come help Paige with the,
Well, I think it was to bring. Here's your son.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. If we could take that out,
For that.
potentially.
You know what?
That's Joe's.
To hear that they're going to be around for 20 years, continuing to take their staff and lawyers and I'm going to
I just unplugged one of these that broke it.
create more waves.
Right click doesn't work on this. Oh well.
Nice Baker tool.
Yeah, I got that from Crossroads. I've been using that. Is any of this needed anymore? Right, I don't want to just.
I don't know if it's needed.
I don't think so. Come on. I don't want to. I don't want to plug it while it's got stuff open like this. This laptop sucks.
in,
Save it. There
so you had no so
If that doesn't work, I'll take the blame for it.
Thank you.
Chris Jeter's representative.
It's going to be small, so I apologize.
No
Paige Sansone with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. I am going to give a very high-level overview of these cash flows. These are 62 pages long, and in the interest of time, I'm going to hit on the high points and just focus mostly on the major operating funds. So I will direct you to the pages I will discuss. So we're going to start on page number 4. And okay, Control Plus. This seems like an antique computer. Okay, I'm going to go to page number 4. All right, the first thing I want to focus on is this chart because I think it's very important. So what this chart represents is your net property tax collections and your circuit breaker tax credit. So if you look at 2022, the city currently levies $12.85 million in property tax. However, you do not collect all of that because of circuit breaker. 15% of your property taxes, or almost $2 million, is returned to taxpayers in the form of circuit breaker credits. So out of the $12.85 that you levy, you collect about $10.9 million in revenue. So I like to say things in very simple terms. If it weren't for circuit breaker, you'd have an additional almost $2 million to operate. So it is a significant impact that you should be aware of. I'm going to now go to page number 6. So on page number 6, this just shows you historically what's been happening with your tax rates and net assessed values. So your property tax rate for the city has actually declined since 2018. It has decreased by 11%. So in 2018, your tax rate was 0.8150. It is now 0.7257. So it has decreased. The primary reason for that decrease is an increase in your tax base, an increase in your net assessed value. So over that time frame, your net assessed value has increased by 24%. That's excellent. And we just received your net assessed value for 2022, and you're going to see a big increase there, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Let's move on to page number 7. So page number 7 is a graphical representation of your historical and projected ending cash balances just for your major operating funds, which would include general, motor vehicle, highway, local road and street, park non-reverting, lit public safety, emergency medical services, and then your internal service funds. So those are your major funds. This graph is showing you the floor, which is the minimum we would want your cash reserve. So that's 15% of your disbursement. So what we're saying is that with these funds combined, you don't want to fall below a cash reserve
that is less than 15% of your disbursement. So that's the red dotted line. The green is 50%. If you're above 50%, you really need to make plans to spend those monies on one-time capital investments and improvements. You've been right in between, which is good, but we're starting to see a downward trend, and that's what we don't want, obviously. So at the end of 2022, we are estimating a slight decrease in your cash reserves, but now we've incorporated in the proposed budgets for 2023, and we're seeing quite a big decrease. So I'm just gonna, when we get to the cash flows, I think it'll make more sense, but this, you wanna kind of reverse that negative trend line. What's causing that? It's budgeting more than your annual receipts. I'm not saying you can't fund this budget for 2023, but what I'm saying is that if you choose to adopt the budget as is, you will utilize cash reserves to fund that budget. And that's a problem, because if it's recurring cost, you're eventually going to run out of cash reserve. So that's what I will show you as I go through this. The next page is some consideration and funding options. I'm not going to go through every one of these, but I do want to point out a couple. One is that you currently have a CUME Capital Improvement Fund. It's also known as a CUME Capital Development Fund. You are at about half of the maximum rate on that fund. You are currently at 0.0252. You could establish up to 5 cents. If you reestablish to the maximum, you could generate another approximately $433,000 of additional property tax revenue. This fund is outside the levy limits, so it's good to reestablish up to the max. Now, everybody's going to say, well, doesn't that cause an overall property tax rate increase? Well, it could, unless your assessed value is growing so much that it offsets that. And I'm going to show you that you've got a lot of room. So again, $433,000 of monies that can be used for any purpose. It's called a CUME Capital Development or CUME Capital Improvement Fund, but the statute changed a number of years ago to allow you to use this for any municipal purpose except utilities. So that's a good option. Another option is, because you've had so much growth in net assessed value, you qualify for what's called a 3-year excess levy appeal, a 3-year growth excess levy appeal. What that means simply is that you can ask the DLGF, the Department of Local Government Finance, to increase your levy because of your growth. And so we did the calculation to see, okay, if you wanted to go through with that, how much would you get? And it's roughly $112,000. Not a lot. But communities that have growth like you're experiencing will typically file this appeal whenever they're eligible. You can file year after year after year if you're eligible. Again, could be a property tax rate increase unless your assessed value is growing so much that it offsets that. One other item I'll point out, I know there's several on here, but again, I'm just hitting the highlights, is that your city does not have a municipal wheel tax. It's a totally optional tax, but if you would establish a municipal wheel tax, you could generate approximately $1,063,000 of additional revenue that can be used for road projects and improvements. All right, so now I want to go right into the general fund, and I apologize, this is very small. Well, before I go to the general fund, I'm sorry, I do want to go over this table that's on page 11, because I want to show you how much your net assessed value is increasing for 2023. So if you look at the 2023 column on page 11, you can see the tax rate that we're estimating based on the assessed value is 0.6673. That's a reduction in your tax rate of almost 6 cents. And the reason being is because your net assessed value down there at the bottom is currently certified, at least on the state website, at $2 billion, almost $2.1 billion. That's an increase over current year of about 18%. Wow, that's pretty good. So as long as that holds and there's no changes or corrections, we don't know of any right now, then your tax rate's gonna go down unless you do something like you could file this appeal and it would still go down because the appeal is only like 0.005. You could issue a general obligation bond to cover some large capital expenditures, and fill in the amount that it's going down. So, I mean, you've got options. When your net assessed value increases this much, it certainly leaves you with options. All right, now I'm going to go to the general fund. Again, a lot of information. I'm going to take you right to the line items that I feel is most important. So there's an index on the left-hand column of the page.
Page are you on?
I'm on page 12. Page 12, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Yep. There's an index numbering system on the left-hand side of the page. So I would like for you to go to line 23. That's your total operating receipts. That is so very important as you go into the budget process, because if you look at 2023, we are estimating revenue of about $24.8 million. So if you want a truly balanced budget where you're not utilizing cash reserves, that's where your budget should be, $24.8 million. Drop down to line 34, 2023, your budget as currently proposed, I know you're still working on it, but your budget as currently proposed is $26.86 million. So there's an out of balance there of over $2 million. Now, again, can this budget be funded? Yes, absolutely. Flip to the next page, page number 13. The budget can be funded. If you look on line 51, at the end of 2023, you would have $5.7 million left. That's about a 21% cash reserve. That's still a good reserve level, but notice how you'll spend down $2 million. Look at the column where it says 2022. We're estimating you're going to end at $7.75 million. If you spend down $2 million, you're going to be at $5.7 million. Going forward is where we have concerns. Again, you can fund this budget, but look what happens in 2024. Now your cash reserves have dropped down to 13%. Right. 2025, 3%. 2026, it's not sustainable. Okay, so moving on. I'm not going to go through every one of these graphs, but each of these major operating funds, they do have the graphs. So like on page 15, you can see you've been right in between those two lines, but there's a trend happening, or at least projected negative downward trend. Okay, so page 16 is the motor vehicle highway fund. Looking on line 7 is your operating receipts. For 2023, we're estimating about $3 million. It's pretty close to $3 million. Your current proposed budget is on line 17 at roughly $4.3 million. So again, you can fund the budget and have on line 27 about $1.87 million left over, but going forward, it just kind of compounds itself. If you're out of balance this year and you increase your expenses by 3%, we all know expenses are increasing, then it's just going to keep, you're going to stay out of balance. Yes, question.
I promise I won't ask many questions. I have a lot.
Fine.
But this is not the time to ask these questions right now, but I just.
No, Counselor Chevlot, you have the floor.
Thank you. I've noticed something on a couple of these pages.
Okay.
Other services and charges seem to be the biggest driver of these increases. This is a 100% increase from 22 to 23. What is other services and charges?
So other services and charges is basically anything that doesn't fit in the other category. So it would be like utilities, professional services, anything that's not salaries, not supplies, not debt service, not capital. It really is a catch-all for anything.
Fair. I thought that, but to have a 100% increase, you're not going to find that in utilities. You're not going to find that in rounding errors. So what's the biggest driver that you saw from 22 to 23? Not only in that, but in the previous one under the general fund, personal services and other services amount to $2 million, which is that gap. So what did you see that's the biggest driver of that?
I don't know that I can stand here and really list out all the items, but here's what I will say is that your budgets appear to be somewhat inflated based on your historical spending. So for instance, look at line 15 on this MVH fund. We also had it on general, and I failed to point it out, but line 15. So for 2022, you budgeted over, I think it was like 3.6 million. But we have found, based on history, that you probably won't spend about 950,000 of your budget. So I feel like there's some, I hate to use this word, maybe some fluff in some line items.
Yeah, okay.
But you'll see that throughout. Like general kind of had the same situations. That's why I keep saying this is your proposed budget. There are maybe some areas that can be reduced. I know that a lot of municipalities do prepare higher budgets, and I think it's because they don't want to do additional appropriations. But I'm here to say that that's what that process is here for. Right. If you ask a financial advisor, I would tell you to prepare accurate budgets.
You're right.
Because I can't give you good advice when I'm up here saying, oh, you're going to spend down your reserves by 1.3 million. So yes, there's some things going on there. Okay. So moving right along to local road and street, which is on page number 19. This one actually looks pretty good, this fund, and all you get in this fund is basically gas taxes. So you get in about 900,000 is what we're estimating. Your current budget right now is actually below that. You've got some room, I think, in this fund to help out MVH. So this fund can be used for anything that MVH can be used for except for personal services. So hey, move some supplies in here, move materials in here. This fund definitely has some room to help out MVH. Okay, moving on. Again, if I'm going too fast, just let me know, but I know you've got a long agenda. Let's see. The next fund is on page 22, and that is your park non-reverting operating fund. So basically, the receipts coming in here is just like program receipts. And so the budget is a little bit out of balance here. We're showing receipts on line 5 of about 102,000. The budget right now is about almost 169,000. So this one, you can only spend what you get, so you just need to kind of watch this as far as your expenditures. There's no property tax that comes into this fund. Next fund is your Lit Public Safety Fund, and I think of all the funds, this one probably is having the most difficulties. I don't know that there's really anything inflated in this fund, unfortunately.
Did you say lift or low it?
Low it, same thing.
Sorry.
Page 25, page 25. Yes, you're calling it low at public safety. It's local income tax public safety. So on line 6, under 2023, we're estimating receipts of about $3,382,000. Now you're probably thinking, why is it less than 2022? This current year, you received a supplemental distribution of local income tax. That's not a guarantee. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. So we did not project that out in the future. Your budget for 2023 on line 16 is $3.9 million. That can't be funded even if you use all your reserves. So if you look down here on line 21, can't be funded by $190,000, and even if you cut $190,000 out of there, you'd end up with 0 cash reserve. So that's one, we can see starting back in 2020, look on line 18. If that number on line 18 is negative, you're using cash reserves. So 2020, you used 400,000, 2021, 500,000, 2022, we're projecting 829,000. So this one definitely needs some attention. You can see the downward trend there on that fund. And then the last major operating fund I would like to look at is on on page 28. This is the Emergency Medical Services Fund. So obviously it's primarily funded with ambulance fees or EMS fees. We basically just did an average of the revenues for the past 2 years. You really never know how much you're gonna get. But if you look at on line 5 under 2023, your receipts are estimated at about 2.6 million. The budget as proposed on line 15 is about 3.1 million. So there's about a $512,000 imbalance there. Yes, you can fund the budget, but it's our concern about sustainability going forward. So those were the major funds that I wanted to talk to you about. The rest of this is kind of some selected miscellaneous other revenues and capital funds. I didn't plan to talk about those, but if you have any questions at all, please let me know. And I know this is a lot of information to kind of go through, so feel free to call me after the meeting if you're going through this and you're like, explain this to me, I just don't understand it. I'm always here to help.
Thank you. What do you have? You said call you? I don't know.
Yep.
I've got.
Three.
We've got her, it's in the
Yes.
email she sent.
It's in the email?
She sent us.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Yep. We don't want, our.
Yeah, I may not want to say that publicly.
I promise I'll just have a couple questions.
Oh, no
I don't want to waste the
worries.
time here, but.
No worries at all. I'm
good
happy
info.
to take.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
You will later.
This is just a good overview
I know you will.
to sort of prepare us for our up and coming budget season. Paige, thank you so
Great.
much for the presentation and for your time. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, car is so weak.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have unfinished business, proposal number 16, 2022.
Proposal number 16, 2022, introduced by Councilor Freeman, a proposal for an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lawrence, Indiana, establishing a vehicle inspection fee pursuant to Indiana Code 9-17-2-12 and a rebuilt salvage motor vehicle fee pursuant to Indiana Code 9-22-3-15.
Okay, that was recommended out of full council, and we'll vote on that at the first meeting in September. Next, we have proposal number 17, 2022.
Proposal number 17, 2022, introduced by Councilor Denny, a proposal for an ordinance amending Title I, Article 2, Chapter 2, Section 4 of the Municipal Code of the City of Lawrence, Indiana, redistricting Common Council district boundaries pursuant to Indiana Code 36-4-6-3, and providing a time when the same shall take effect.
That is assigned to committee as a whole. And we will likely meet prior to our mid-month meeting. So I'll get you a time, okay?
Madam President, would that be a time that we would invite constituents as kind of this town hall? I know that we talked about doing district, but might make sense to just bring everyone here at one time.
Yeah.
Constituents?
Yeah, a couple of counselors have made that recommendation as well. So let's try to just connect real briefly after this meeting and
Okay.
see if we can coordinate that. So thank you. That I think we definitely need to do that.
More efficient.
Yes. Next, we have resolution number 12, 2022.
Resolution number 12, 2022, introduced by Councilor Freeman, a resolution to amend the City of Lawrence's ARP fund plan.
Is that in?
It's still in finance.
Still in finance? Okay, okay. Yes, we didn't get to cover that in the finance meeting, so it will be covered on the next meeting. Next, we have consideration of council appointment to the Grants Committee. We are going to vote on that at mid-month meeting. There's a point of order that I need to clarify with Councilor Wheeler, so I will do that. Next,
Can I just, real quick on that, is there a stipulation that, like most of our other committees, that they have to be a resident of the city of Lawrence? Do you know if that's been
Yeah,
a conversation? Because I've been kind of out of the loop on it, but.
Yeah, I believe all of our appointments are, and I think.
I know this is a new committee, so I think we need.
Yeah, I'd like to stay consistent with.
Okay. Because if there's someone that has approached me, I need to know.
Yeah.
You don't live in the city, so.
Yeah, I would stay consistent
enough.
with that.
That's good.
Good question, though. Next, we have proposal number 18, 2022.
Proposal number 18, 2022, introduced by Councilor Wells, a proposal for an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lawrence, Indiana, adopting a new schedule of sewer utility rates and charges.
Okay, that's in finance, so they'll meet on that at the next meeting. Next, we have proposal number 19, 2022.
Proposal number 19, 2022, introduced by Counselor Wells, a proposal for an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lawrence, Indiana concerning acquisition, construction, or improvement of sewage works, authorizing issuance of sewer works revenue bonds for such purpose, providing for the collection, segregation, and distribution of revenues of sewage works and safeguarding of interest of owners of sewage works revenue bonds, other matters connected therewith, and repealing ordinances inconsistent herewith.
Okay, that's in finance as well. Next, we have new business, proposal number 20, 2022.
Proposal number 20, 2022, introduced by Councilor Chevlot, a proposal for an ordinance of the Common Council amending Section 3-3-4-7 and Section 3-3-4-8 of the Lawrence Municipal Code with respect to litter violation notices.
Okay, that'll be assigned to code. Comments of the administration.
Really stepped up the pace of this meeting.
Yeah, 100 miles an hour.
Tonight's comments of the administration will basically be a midsummer update of activities and announcements from throughout the city of Lawrence. There's a lot to talk about, so please bear with me just a few minutes. Last week, we were proud to welcome pickleball players to our new courts at Lee Road Park. We have been noticing dozens and dozens of players, visitors, who love this emerging sport and have been out to our courts over just the past few days. Hours of operation for the public are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. We do have lights out there. And here's an interesting fact. More than 26,000 viewers have looked at our Facebook page about the pickleball courts. Interest is very intense. An update from the Lawrence Fire Department. The auxiliary building is nearing completion and demolition is nearing completion to make way for the new LFD Station Number 38 headquarters building on McCoy Street. A groundbreaking ceremony will occur on August 23rd at 9:30 a.m. with the public and, of course, this council all invited and encouraged to attend. On the Lawrence Police Department side of the public safety update, 911 Communications Director Leanne Wolf, who was here a little bit ago, is happy to announce that the City of Lawrence hired 2 new 911 dispatchers this summer. They both have previous experience, they caught on quickly, and they have already been assigned to their permanent shifts. As you know, 911 operators are the lifeline between our police officers, firefighters, medics, to our citizens, who most of whom are probably in their darkest day, to get them emergency assistance. So very key positions there, which is why we're glad to be fully staffed. Also, Chief Woodruff reported a very safe 4th Fest, 4th of July celebration, due in part to the collaborative contributions of every member of public safety here in Lawrence, with the extra assistance of the Indiana State Police and the Marion County Sheriff's Office. There were no major or really even minor public safety related incidents in Lawrence Community Park on July 4th or anywhere else in the city. It was a fun-filled day packed with events from the parade, which you all are aware of, to the fish fry, to the car show. We have one award-winning counselor from the car show sitting here, and to the bands, the food trucks, all the way up to the fireworks at 10 o'clock. It was a great day. And as you know, tomorrow night is the annual National Night Out celebration of police community relations, where teams of public safety and city officials will visit 17 Lawrence neighborhoods to connect with the citizens that we all serve. I like how here in Lawrence, it's more than just police officers visiting citizens for a couple hours. We start at 4:30 and we'll go till about 9:30. And the mayor's office is represented, the fire department, many of you counselors have expressed interest, representatives from other divisions of our city. So really it's a great way for the city municipal government to reach out to our citizens. And of course, we're surrounded by police officers as well. So the heart of that event is kept intact. From our streets department, the director, Jim Hennigan, reported a couple weeks ago that so far this summer, our large street sweeper has covered more than 300 miles of Lawrence streets and roads and parking lots throughout the city and collected more than 150 cubic yards of debris as our Lawrence is Beautiful campaign continues to unroll this summer. The re-roofing of the Starrett Center has been an exercise in patience and cooperation, according to Parks Director Eric Martin. He would specifically and publicly like to thank this council for their favorable consideration to fund that project. The contractors on the project are moving quickly with minimal interruption to the building users and campus visitors. The HVAC contract had a crane on site to remove the existing 3 units and they have begun construction of new adapter curbs with placement on the new 95% efficient units that are being installed there. Energy efficiency is key. We expect this project to be completed by mid-August. The new roof should last nearly half a century and continue to preserve the Starrett Center into its second 100 years of existence. The Fort Bend's Farmers Market is being run by the city this year. To date, we have hosted 9 markets. I've seen many of you there. And we have had an estimated 3,500 visitors who have enjoyed the great vendors, food trucks, live entertainment, and just the general atmosphere of community there at the cultural campus. Now that growing season is in full swing, there is plenty of fresh produce to offer. The market continues to be open on Thursdays from 4 to 7 p.m. and will remain open through early October. I think October 6th is the last day. Community Safety Day is going to happen on Saturday, August 13th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Station 40, which is located at 59th and Lee Road. Once again, there will be public safety demonstrations, a bicycle safety course, more than 50 vendors with giveaways, free food, and of course, the ever-popular First Responders Wing Eating Contest. We invite the entire community and you all to please come out and join us to see firsthand what it is our first responders do and kind of get to meet them and know them when something crazy is not happening in a time of peace, not crisis. Couple more points. Lawrence City Controller Tyler Doubt that was the recipient of the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. It's a mouthful. But this is the 6th consecutive year that the City of Lawrence was recognized with this honor, and it is particularly impressive considering all the work that is done to prepare our annual budget is done in-house, largely. And speaking of budgets, Tyler and I and the various department heads, the department leaders from throughout the city have held so far 8 public budget workshops where we can sit down and discuss and share the 2023 proposed budget. And we have 11 more on the schedule. Now, dates and times are going to be posted on the bulletin board out in the hallway out there, and also, of course, on the city's website. Current and long-term funding challenges that you just heard a little bit about have been and will be explained in detail at these meetings. And of course, I know you've got a committee of the whole with a town hall style. I just think that is so honorable and admirable that none of this budget presentation activity is being done under the cover of darkness. And if you go on our city's website right now, you can look and see every penny coming into the city and going out of the city since 2016. So it's all transparent, and I love that. And finally, we have been working closely with the Fort Harrison Reuse Authority to be certain that the final remaining elements of the fort's redevelopment are in the best interests of the city and our public. You heard about one tonight, but there are some other exciting public and private projects in development all over our thriving city, not just on the fort. From Shadeland Avenue to Franklin Road, from Pendleton Pike, which is going to span from 465 out to Carroll Road, Oak Landon, all the way out to really the far eastern side of our city. We hope to have some great announcements in the near future about this growth, which I really believe, and we heard a little bit about assessed valuation of our city and how it's growing, and this city is thriving. And all this stuff is just making our great city an even better place to work and live, come visit. So all of this stuff I'm mentioning, and I do appreciate the time, but everything that I just mentioned can be found on our city's website. or our social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter. So I encourage everybody here and at home, if you want to know what's going on in the city, go to our website, and I will try to make these occasional announcements. I know you don't have a lot of time, and this particular meeting went awfully long, but I do appreciate that time, and I thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have citizens' comments. Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.